Hear your stories. Let me hope that we will hear some stories from all of you, lasting only a few minutes each, so each can share your time with us.
My name is Molly Ahrens, and I'm here really through osmosis. Thank you. I came here as an addendum to Jackie Slater's speech because my dad and his dad were pressmen, and of course we didn't stay in the city during the summers because you're not allowed to. So we rented out at Slater's, and I came to the barn. Before I really came to the barn, I met some of the people, my compatriots and my peers, and I sort of was going around with Joey Skopinski. I don't know if you know Joey Skopinski, but he lived in the Danoff house. And then I remember my husband, Mac, came over to ask me to dance. And I said, no. Well, he was very intrigued. And from that intrigue developed a marriage of over 52 years. And this man, I have to speak about him because when I speak about Goldensbridge, I speak about Mac. And you can see that there's a sign up there made out of his tools, Maxie. Some of the memories that I have were at the meetings that we used to have in the barn. Mac was in a play once, Marty, and he had one line. And the line alluded to the fact that he was there as a person, and he said in full stentorian voice, "Did you come here alone or stag?" Well, the place fell apart. The place fell apart. And that was Mac, and he was the mayor of Goldensbridge, and I dedicate this speech to him.
Okay, Esther's grandchildren are here, so we go back, we're 4 generations. We came here in 1938. And I mean, there's no end to the amount of reminiscences we can have. However, since time is drawing to a close, we would just...
About Grandma and Grandpa.
Right. We would like to, on behalf of ourselves, and I'm sure all of you, thank our parents for creating this place.
And for being pioneers in the wonderfulest sense of the word. They cleared the acres, they built shacks, they enlarged the shacks, they cooked for whoever needed cooking, they housed whoever needed housing. During the time of the McCarthy hearings, there were people who were running away. Many families here took them in, helped their children, helped the families. We've lived for 75 years here because so much of our history made this the wonderful place that it is today for our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. And we thank our parents and all the parents who made this possible.
We had wonderful relationships here that have lasted through our lives. Some of us married each other, and of course, my family is here unto the 4th generation, which is pretty good. There are a couple of other families here. My uncle and aunt, my Jay and Sabina Milstein, are of the original founders, and I wanted to just say a few things about what it was like for a city child in the late 20s and the 30s to be coming to heaven every summer. This is really what we lived for, to come here in the summertime. The place was like one large extended family. The children were welcome in everybody's house. It was like a compound. Of course, it looked very different because the houses were shacks. The walls didn't go up to the ceilings. The doors to the room closed on hasps, not with knobs. Of course, we had outhouses. And of course, our mothers, our wonderful mothers, cooked on kerosene stoves, and we kids carried water from across the road in pails. You've heard these stories.
But there were 3 or 4 families that lived here all winter. I went to school here. There was my family. There were the Bookmans and Flenenbaums. I remember when the Flenenbaums moved in, they bought the Frankel house, I believe, and they had 3 daughters about my age, and they were friends. I had no friends here. I was all alone until they and the Bookmans and their 3 children came, and we all went to Goldens Bridge. We were the winter people here, along with 1 or 2 others.
I won't get more specific, but let's suffice to say that Bishop's petunias made the rounds.
Integrated, because here I am, and I am half Southern. My mother's family's from Sicily. And my sister-in-law Eileen, who is next to me, is Puerto Rican. When I came here in 1970 through Shirley and Joe Elias, we decided to stay. And it's been a place for my kids and me. I mean, when I first came, it was the first time I went to camp. Those shows and the activities during the week just changed my life. This is where we had our first women's group. This is where it started, the consciousness raising group, and that was definitely a life-altering experience. And I think that it has influenced Marissa's career. Just to be on that stage was very, very important, and to Adam too. We, as you see, they love being here, and it's a place that we just feel at home.
And I want to say that what you guys have been saying has been echoed throughout. That's how I am. That's why I have an extra. I hear the same sentiments again and again. We lived them too. We had great childhoods. We were influenced so much by you guys. And the legacy, the leftist legacy, our stuff was more like the time of women's lib. And that had a huge influence on all of us. And I just think it's so beautiful how it's the love and the love for the children has been passed on. All the generations have lived it. And I started crying when I saw Bart's face, because when I look around and I see how much each person has given to me, and the folk dancing from Bart, and Billy's making movies and putting us up on this stage, and my Aunt Eileen teaching me to tap dance and doing my first big tap number here at the barn. And I can still vividly remember everybody rushing to their feet after that number. And Normie Berkowitz's face going wild and being so nervous beforehand. And I believe it was Shirley Elias who said, in Goldens Bridge, you're either a success, a great success, or a fabulous success. It's that kind of safety. Marilyn, just looking up to you and all the roles you played over the years here in the barn, and coming of age with Naomi and Amy. And I just want to say I love you all.
I was evicted from Goldens Bridge. I rented in 1936 in the Oakman House for the weekends. And he couldn't stand me because I was very cute and very pretty. I was maybe not even 20.
And you love to show your tits.
And I loved to show my tits.
I came here in 1964 to run the day camp, and we ran it for 3 years. It was 3 great years. But I want to tell you one little story about that. In either 65 or 6, I'm not sure which, as head of the day camp, I was having a maintenance problem down below, and Jack Slater's father, who we always called Mr. Slater, you know, remember that generation? It was Mr. Slater, Mr. Rubin, Mr. Shumsky, Mr. Saul, so forth, you know. I had to find Mr. Slater because he was on the board, the head of maintenance. And somebody said, well, I think he's on the, I think he's with the Rubins. And so, sure enough, he was on the porch with the Rubin house down the road here. Well, there was as I walked up there, I realized there was a very fierce argument going on. And there were three guys on there, and it was Slater, Shumsky, and Rosen. And so, you know, they were so busy that I didn't want to break in, and so I kind of overheard them. And do you know what was going on in 1966 was a fierce argument about the debate between Stalin and Trotsky. These guys had already known each other 25 years by that year.
I'm in the fire department. I've been in the fire department here for 25 years. And about maybe 15 years ago, we were at a Christmas party. And I was schmoozing with a person who used to be the postmaster of Golden's Bridge. And we were talking purely as friends. I mean, this was, you know, we were fellow firemen. And he was recounting the old days, the good old days. And he described to me one of the things he had to do. And what he used to do, he was saying, was he used to have to take the names and addresses on the return addresses on mail to the colony and send it to the FBI.
I'm a relative newcomer. I think I came in 1947. I was about 5 years old. I didn't know till I was 18 that my mother was a communist and my aunts and uncles were communists. And it was a big surprise to me.
And Ed Yellen especially needed the community when he was attacked by the House Un-American Activities Committee, and the community came through, and my parents are not here to thank everyone, so I will do it for them. Thank you.
Before we go further, I'm not sure exactly who's here, but can we have those people who are the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the founders, please stand. There we go. Well, you're part of the family, Billy, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. Before I continue to give you my spiel, I would like to ask all of us to remember those who we loved and who died and shared GB with us and who are not here. So I'd like all of us to do that right now.
And he said, well, he says, let me tell you something, Mrs. Lucan. He says, you know why the birds don't come and eat off my trees? And I says, why not? And he says, because in each tree I put a clock, and the tick-tock of the clock keeps the birds away.
When my mother died in '59, my father wanted to sell the house. And the Cuffeys, who rented across the street at Goldenberg's, found out that Dad wanted to sell. And Rose Cuffey had been a friend of my mother's, that they wanted to buy the house, but they didn't have any money. And my father said, well, I will go to a lawyer, and you will pay $100 a month until you pay off the house. And maybe the house was $8,000 or $10,000, I don't know. But because they didn't have a down payment or anything. And Rose Cuffey said to my father, well, how do you know that we're going to make the payments? And my father said, well, because you were friends with my wife. And so that was, I think, the first African-American family that bought into Golden's Bridge Colony.
No, the Blake. No, the Blake.
After the Blakes.
But we know that Golden's Bridge is a great place because the slogan of "the future belongs to the youth" proved itself here at Golden's Bridge.
In 1939, I came. I earned for the whole summer the sum of $50.
Wow.
And that was because I got a raise. Mr. Zackheim liked me.
Yeah. Sam? No, someone else. Sculptor. Sam, give me the camera for just 1 second.
Yeah, aren't those gorgeous? I don't even know where they
Came here in 1959. The civil rights movement was just beginning. It was a very special place in those days. It was also a colony of minorities and a kind of like community that didn't welcome them too much, and those were exciting times. We had civil rights rallies in the community. That's what made it special. There was kind of like community values in front of property values, and that's all changing now. But these anniversaries are worthwhile. Everybody remembers the good times. Everybody forgets the bad times. There was a lot of both in the community.
This is the 50th anniversary of my arrival in this community. 1952, my family, my mother, father, and younger brother rented, as they say in these parts, by Glick. And we spent 2 summers in which I discovered what would be for me the ideal community.
We are fortunate and honored to have some dignitaries here with us tonight who have brought proclamations, one from Westchester County Executive's Office and one from the Westchester County Legislature's Office. And I'd like to introduce our County Legislator, Ursula Lamont, and then our Town Councilwoman, Jessica Bacall.
I won't keep you too long, but I do have a very nice proclamation. I believe it's very nice. And it will commemorate this whole weekend for all of you who are here having such a good time. And so, not to read the whole thing, I will now proclaim today, July 27th, 2002, as Golden's Bridge Colony Day in Westchester County. So thank you very much.
I was here with my children years ago. This is a great day. And I'm here because I'm a neighbor and because I'm a representative of yours on the town board in Lewisboro, and also because I was invited. I'm here now to read the proclamation which Andy Spano, the county executive, has prepared, which states that there is a deep sense of pride and appreciation as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Golden's Bridge Colony, and recognizing the important and lasting contributions of the Golden's Bridge community. He therefore proclaims this weekend, July 26th through the 28th, as Golden Bridge Days in Westchester County.
Well, thank you very much.
I want to say a couple of concluding words, and first I want to thank everybody. We've been here, Wendy and I, for 43 years. We have really genuinely, as far as I'm concerned, listened to each other so deeply and so movingly. I think maybe for the first time in the life of this colony, as far as I'm concerned, without real rancor. Although sometimes rancor is necessary and helpful. But I think we've all gotten a great, great, great deal. I see Jack shaking his head out of this. I have. It's 75 years. The younger people here will remember this 25 years from now. And it's worth remembering.
We hope you're enjoying yourselves, and there'll be people who are going to come up tonight and tell a story, and we've asked them not to be too long, but this is Golden's Bridge, so we'll see how that works out. There'll be some songs, and you have some songbooks, we have some video stuff, and just enjoy yourself.
My grandmother was a very political person. She barely was allowed into the United States based on the last issue at Ellis Island. They ask you one final question, apparently, when you're coming in. The question is, do you support the overthrow of the United States government by revolution or sedition? And my grandmother thought for a while, and she said, sedition. But revolution's the right answer. So she came in and she bought this property in Golden's Bridge, and I was looking at the file at the building department office, and the first paper under my grandmother is a violation. And the violation is for putting up a building of some sort on the property. This is in June 21st, 1944, in violation of the War Production Board Act and without a building permit. Here is the Ford Victory Homes brochure for prefabricated tool houses, poultry houses, practical, low-cost, and easily erectable. The building is a farm tenant outbuilding. The size, 10 by 12. One room, that was to change very soon. One room, $179. And you know what? It's available for immediate use without priority and comes under the War Production Board's order permitting the manufacture and sale of buildings where the price does not exceed $200. My grandmother came in neatly under the $200 mark. This all was in the Migdale file because Migdale's house is on that property now. I'd like to have that deed examined a little carefully. But the ultimate point, and it was phenomenal, today it all come full circle. It's not set up, you can ask Mark and Judy. They were doing some work, they removed a dishwasher in their house, and apparently they kept the flooring and 2 or 3 layers of linoleum down. Eric told me was, and I said, red linoleum. And he said, right. Love it, hope to be here forever. God bless.
I think that we truly are a community of volunteers, and we really do come out and get the work done when we need to. And I think we all deserve a round of applause for that.
We wanted our kids to learn about workers' culture.
Folk dancing. For those of you who were lucky enough to come last night to see the wonderful, the feeling, the sense of old and young, of pilgrim and renter, of men and women, of boy and girl, that's what it is all about. But more importantly for me, I was a youngster here, and I was taught folk dancing by Ann Wolfe and by Bart. And, you know, on a little side here, I don't even know Bart's last name. I have to tell you, he's like Cher, he's like Bono, he's a one-name guy. And I come walking in last night, and there he is, Bart. And what was wonderful about it was that my children were dancing. Bart taught me, and he taught, well, he didn't really teach my children. They were running around like nuts as he was teaching us. And that to me is nachas. When I could see my children, my 7.5, my 4.5, just even in the presence of folk dancers, that means something to me.
I remember the 70s in Golden's Bridge being really just wonderful, a great vibe. And I asked Albie, was that just, you know, because I was a kid and I was having a great time and everything? And Albie said no. You know, he said in all the decades that he was here, the 70s was the best. Basically, during the 70s, I went from being 6 years old to 16 years old. So these were the years that I grew up, and it was a magical time for me, and I drew a lot of love and strength from all of you. And Goldens Bridge in the 70s helped make me who I am today, and I think that whatever decade you were here, be it for one summer or many, Goldens Bridge has helped mold all of us into who we are today. So, thanks very much.
What is remembering all about? It preserves our past and our human qualities, and helps us deal with our present and future. We recall our personal and family joys celebrated with others here in Goldens Bridge over many decades, which include historical events of the last 3/4 of a century, beginning with the Great Depression of the 1930s that affected the lives of our early pioneers and their children, the Spanish Civil War, the fight against fascism and the Second World War against Hitlerism, the poison of McCarthyism in our civic, political, and cultural life, the great civil rights, women's and struggles, and the people with disabilities, the building of the labor movement, and the great fight of our country, of our people against our war in Vietnam, and the continuing struggle for peace.